This award lets me know that good morning, bonjour, comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Ni hao, hola, bienvenue, Yin, bienvenita, bienvenidos, namaste, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a Gemmological Storyteller. And each and every week, I get the magnificent opportunity to take you on an adventure. What I do is I take the art, science, history, gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and put it all together into a story. The whole history of mankind revolves around gemstones, directly or indirectly. So what I do is I take those gem stories and I use them as a template, as a bridge, as an inception point to help people rediscover the value of their own stories, of who they are, of what they mean to not only to themselves, but to the world. I want people to understand how they resonate with the light. Last week, we were talking about, well, we're always talking about value. And I wanted to take it in a different way because I literally met somebody. I was at the Alzheimer's Association, and I met this really nice woman, and she was sitting. I was fine, found somewhere to eat. It was a lovely older woman, and I just said, "How you doing?" And she said, "Just old." And it just struck me funny because she was just a vibrant older woman, but just the way she described herself as old. And then she asked me what I did, and I told her that I was a gemmological storyteller. She said, "Oh, what's that?" And I told her basically what I say in the opening of the show. What I do is I take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones and precious metals, and I apply it to people. And then she said, "Oh, really? Well, I studied gemstones." So I said, "Oh, that's fantastic." She says, "Well, let's see what you can do." And she was she was an older woman. And in fact, she told me how old she was. She was 87 years old. And I say, "Wow." And she said, "You're just a baby." And I said, "Yeah, that's probably true." I said, "I probably just started going to the bathroom by myself last week." And we laughed. And then she said, "Well, what can you tell me about my gemstone?" And I said, "What month are you born?" She told me she was born in May. And I said, "Oh, Emerald. Okay." And I just thought about her age, and I just thought, what an emerald is and how it comes about. And when I finished telling her that, she just smiled. And she said, "I never thought about it like that." And that's what kind of got me to thinking about today's show. Because when you look at, just like when I saw her, or when you see a gemstone, what do you see? What do you see when you see something like this? And most people look at it and they see beauty. They say, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Oh my God, that's just absolutely lovely." They resonate with it. They feel it. They experience it. I always think about that woman who had that diamond tennis bracelet, and she just spent the whole rest of the evening, hours, looking at her arm as if it was a brand new arm. But what's always got me about when people look at gemstone is they just see the superficial level. They just see what they see, and they make a judgment value of it. They look at this and go, "Oh my God, look at the colors. Look at the shape. Look at the different play of colors in this opal." But what they don't really see is the work. When that woman started telling me what she did for a living, and how she worked with, she was a teacher and nurse, and she just talked about all the people that she had worked with in her life. Not all the people, but many of the people that she had worked with her life. And her sister has dementia. And she was there to find out what she could do with her sister because her sister didn't tell her that she had dementia. She knew about it years before it came full blown. And she was feeling a sense of anger because her sister didn't tell her that. But at the same time, she knew that she didn't have time to be angry. She wanted to do whatever she could do for her sister. And I just thought, wow, here's a woman that when you first looked at her, and I knew she was an older woman. I knew she was 87. I knew she was older. Actually, I was surprised she was 87. But then once I started hearing her story, the person, as much as I liked her when I first saw her, I admired her even more. And I told her, I said, just what you did is exactly what I do. I said, until you told me that story, what you've done, then I understood who you are. She said, yeah, that's true. See, what most people don't do is when they look at a gemstone, they just see the color. They just see the beauty of it. They see the shine. They see the scintillation. They see, but they don't. They look at gemstones like it's this mystical, magical thing, and it is. It is. It's That's why my show, Art, Science, History, Magic, because it is magical. You think about here is a substance that, for the whole entire time on that man has been on Earth, gemstones has been a part of their lives. That's the one thing we can talk about. Cultures, we can talk about politics, we can talk about cities and countries. Some of them are still here and many of them not. And we know the people are not, but the gemstones still exist. And that's what always got me about gemstones. They see the beauty. They see this beautiful stone and go, wow, but what they don't see is they don't see the work. They don't see the work that it took to get there. Every gemstone, and those of you who've been watching my show for a while, you know I show rough gemstones all the time. There's no gemstone that doesn't require work. It requires an understanding of where it is, where you are, what happened, what process did it have to go through in order to get to that point. What did it have to do? What did it have to become to get to that point of becoming something beautiful? You got to do the work. So that's why, and as a gemologist, the thing about gemstones that's so beautiful to me is understanding the behind the scenes, because to me, that's what makes it really more special. So I wanted to entitle today's episode, The Transformative Power of Heat, Pressure, and Time. Because that's the similarity. That's the thing. Any gemstone you've ever seen requires heat, pressure, and or time. Some require more than others. Some require just maybe pressure. Some require just heat. All of them require time. You don't have a ruby season. You don't have a turquoise season. And it's the same thing for us. In fact, what makes it really more wonderful is the fact that this woman has become who she has become. And I mean, her sister obviously has dementia. Now, obviously, I told you she has dementia, but she didn't. I mean, she was quizzing me. Sure, sharp as a tack, 87 years old. And I'm like, where are you 87? Teeth all there, everything. So what she has managed to do, this wonderful woman that she's managed to become, she did it in 87 years. It takes gemstones tens of thousands of millions and sometimes billions of years to become. We see this gemstone. We go, wow. We see the red color, but we don't know how it got there. We don't understand what process did it have to go through. And the way I can always make this analogy is, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't remember your 7th, 8th grade science class, this is the periodic table. You, me, your friends, your neighbors, every kid you've ever seen, every person you've ever seen on a planet is made up of the same thing that gemstones are made up of. some more, some less. So we're talking about the commonality on a universal level. All gemstones is a basically you're talking about those few gemstones on a molecular level to become this. Heat, pressure, and time created this. You're talking about millions, billions of years to become this beautiful work of art. And nobody sees that. We don't think about it. And so if we don't think about it with billions of years, you know we're not thinking about it at 60 or 50 or 40. We're sitting there and we don't realize what it took. Some of us, many of us are doing these wonderful jobs and careers and saving people's lives and raising children and educating kids and people and working, making these wonderful products and doing all these things, and creating food for people. And yet we don't understand, we don't think about the value that's in the work. It's the work. There's no gemstone that does not require something, heating, irradiating, changing, and that's to make it to the level that we want to make it. I'm talking about the work that's from the beginning, like atomic level, structural level, molecular level, that work. We have to start thinking about the process. And if you don't want to think about the process about other people, think about the process of yourself. We live in a world where mental illness is a challenge. I have the honor of working, teaching in a behavioral health clinic, and the children that I work with, wow, beautiful kids, Black, white, Hispanic, gifted, drawing, art, the things that they talk about, and yet all of them have challenges ranging from suicide to just eating disorders, everything. And you sit there like, wow. But to look at them, you would think they're okay. You would never think about who this. I'm just thinking, of course, I never say a name, but I'm thinking about people that's in my classroom today, and I just like, wow, wow. We don't understand the process. How did you learn how to draw like that? How did you? What makes you want to become a an architect, an ecological architect? I was like, okay. But if we start to understand the process that we did, if we start to understand the similarities that gemstones, just like gemstones, have to go through a process, so do we. Today's May 1st. Happy birthday to all the people born in May. This is your gemstone, emerald. This is an emerald. And I didn't always like emeralds. I mean, I never disliked them. I like the color green, but emeralds, there's other green stones that I like a little bit better than the emerald, but I've learned how to love emeralds over time because of what an emerald is. An emerald, you have to understand that every emerald that you have is at least 20, read that number out loud to yourself, 2,546 million years old. Let's just start from there. That's what I told the woman, Norma. That's her name. That's what I told Norma. When Norma was saying that she was old, I said, girl, an emerald. I said, you know your birthstone? That it took 2,546 million years to produce the gemstone that you see and love. And it only took you 87. And she's just like, wow, okay. Okay. She says, that means I'm young. I say, yeah, especially in comparison to an emerald. She smiled. I told her that an emerald comes now, yeah, there's stones that's older than that. A diamond is a billion, 2 to 3. This diamond is at least 2 to 3 billion years old. So she's still a baby. And she just laughed at that. Think about it. An emerald. Yeah, when you look at a diamond, let's go back to diamonds. Billions of years it took to make that. And the problem is we just hand it. Here you go. You're lucky enough to get this, blessed enough to get something like this. But we just look at the beauty. We don't see that it took 3 billion years to make that. For those things to come together, it had to be at the perfect place, at the perfect time, the elements had to come together. In this case, carbon and nothing else. As it was forming, nothing else came into that diamond to produce a pure crystalline structure. As I told you, a diamond requires 70,000 pounds. Let's go the heat for 3,600 degrees. 70,000 pounds per square inch. It comes out of the ground like a volcano. It's 500 miles an hour. Yeah. But I digress. Let's go back to emeralds. An emerald is found in the crust. It's found in volcanic. In fact, one of the things that's wonderful about an emerald can be found in all 3 types of rocks. Igneous rocks, which is volcanoes. Metamorphic rock, that's rock that changes because of heat and pressure. Then you have the sedentary rocks. Remember 7th, 8th grade? That's the rocks that lay it. Remember those words? Yeah. That's an emerald is special because it can be found in all 3 types of rocks all over the world. This is an emerald. But we don't see that. We don't see 2,500 million years old. What? That's what your partner, your husband, your wife is giving you, your children. This is what you are wearing on your hand. Something that was there from the beginning. If an emerald could talk, he's like, were you there when Lincoln? Yeah, I was there. Were you there? What about when Washington? Yeah, I was there. You were there the whole time. That's what an emerald is. And you have to understand what it takes to do. What makes an emerald so special, just like you, is all those pieces had to come together to make you. How is it that we can highly value an emerald and yet we can't value ourselves? We can't value each other. It's the same process. It's the work. Doctors work, nurses work, teachers work, moms work. This is May, Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Work. Belief. An understanding. Not only just the gemstone, just the emerald being produced, but even what it took to find it. Work. It didn't just grow on a tree. Well, I'm going to go in the backyard and get me an emerald? No. It took volcanic forces coming together over thousands of millions of years. And it just so it had to have all the elements had to come together to see this. This is why the Incas thought that their gods lived in those stones, because they knew how special it was. They didn't have all the machinery and technology and infrared machine. They didn't have those things. They knew how special it was. when the Spaniards, of course, Europe knew about emeralds, and Cleopatra had emeralds, but those emeralds are different. They're emeralds, but the geologic forces that made the emeralds in Europe and they don't have anything on Colombian. So when the Spaniards came to South America and they saw the emeralds that the Incas was walking around with, they lost their minds. They literally lost their minds. Spain has never recovered from its love from emeralds. Spain is not right now economically because of hundreds of years of what they did to get emeralds, to get gemstones. Ferdinand, remember Ferdinand? I'm no, so that's Spain. Sorry, my bad. No, it is Spain. I'm sorry. Ferdinand, Isabella. Yeah, there you go. You know, the ones that sent Columbus out. Yeah. Emeralds. But they didn't think about, but so when people buy emeralds, they don't understand what it took to make it. That's why you love it so much. You love the process. You love what you're looking at as the process. And my point today is to get you to understand the process, to start thinking about the process that made you who you are. Yeah, you go to work every day and you do wonderful jobs. Whatever you do. Right now, I live in Chicago. The streets are just all kinds of potholes. So the guys that's out there working the construction, and I know what that feels like because I did construction. These hot days that are coming. And if your state or city or country is already hot, imagine the guys that's out there making sure that you can drive down the road. That's you have to understand that that person learned how to do that. That person started maybe as a young man, 20, 30 years old, and they learned how to measure, how to do all the things. We need to start understanding the work. We just appreciate the finished product and just go, voila. No. This piece is a gemstone. Let's break it down scientifically. You got diamonds that are made out of carbon, okay? And you have emeralds that are made out of three things with a hint of chromium. That's what. So you have. Let's just talk about the age. You have diamonds that are at least 1 to 2 billion years old, and then you have an emerald that is 2,600 million years old together. Yeah, that's what you're looking at. Imagine, imagine wearing this saber, ladies. Imagine. I don't even know what kind of dress you would wear, but I know if you had something like this on your hips, guys, you too, but ladies, if you had something like this, just hanging off your hip, and just in this dress, which of course the shoes got to match. Imagine you're wearing something that is millions of years old. Not to mention the gold that comes from space. Yeah, that's what you're wearing. Those of you who are born this month, this is your gemstone, an emerald. Think about it's seen everything. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I just can't get past a substance that has been around for millions and billions of years. I just can't get past that. That's why I don't sell jewelry. Because once you know what it is, whatever price I give you or can sell because whatever, I just sit there and go, it's worth so much. It just is. The history, the magic, the art, that's art. Look at that. Look at that. Nobody would mess with you, not because it's a knife or a dagger, just because look at it. Never. And it's not magic, just like you didn't magically become that principal at a school. You didn't magically become that nurse. You worked for it. You went to school. You studied. You had sleepless nights. You had to pay your tuition. You had to drive wherever and take care of kids and take care of husband, which sometimes is your extra child. To do that, that's what we're talking about when we talk about gemstones. They just didn't come. It was the word. It required heat. It required heat. Hundreds, thousands of degrees temperature required heat. It required pressure. all gemstones, or many of the gemstones required some type of pressure. And I mean, let's go back. Let's go back. The heat. Think about the things that you had to deal with. Think about the things that you had to deal with in your life. The heat of being on that deadline, of trying to make it to work on time, or trying to finish that project. Heat. And for you, it might have felt like thousands of degrees. Think about all the first responders during the COVID crisis. Think about the heat. Where there's like you walk into work and the whole room is filled with sick people, and you're short staffed, and you don't have enough medication, and people are literally dying. The heat. Think about the pressure of that. That's your job. Firemen, think about the pressure of going into a burning building. Not only do you have real heat, but you got pressure of going into a burning to save people's lives. Where is that any different than an emerald? Of what it required to make an emerald. Then you got time. It takes time. It took time for you to become who you are. It just didn't happen. The things that I've learned, the things that I could do now at 63 years old, man, I couldn't even think about doing it. I helped a child today with her math problems. I remember when I was terrible at math. And I told her, because she was like, I can't do this. And I said, you know what? I know exactly how you feel, girl. I said, when I was your age, I said, this problem, I would have been already crying just looking at it. And she laughed. I said, for real. I said, I used to get F's in math like it was Christmas. Like that was what I was supposed to do. I got E's or A's and everything else. Math, no. It took time. It took time to see it. It took time to understand it. Took time to get it. It took time for it to manifest. Isn't that what happened to you? 20, 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago? Isn't that what happened to you? That once upon a time you decided to be fill in the blank? And 40 years later, now you are? Now you have become? And yeah, maybe you're not as celebrated as an emerald. You're not a cardinal stone, but you have value. Think about the lives that you've touched. Think about the people that you have changed their lives because you existed. When queens and kings and monarchs and emperors would wear, when Napoleon gave Josephine that emerald crown tiara, he was saying something to her. He equated who she is as his woman, as his wife, as his empress. He equated that to the crown that he got her. He just didn't say, here, honey, here you go. But it took time for him to get to that point where he could do that. It took time for him to become the person he was. And we won't even talk about how many, I mean, just people in history. Pick one. Pick one. We see the evolution of people all the time, and we don't really think about the time that it took to do it. The thing that they could do and master so effortlessly just didn't come like, oh, well, what are you going to do today? I think I'm going to be a heart surgeon. It's Tuesday, and yeah, I should have it by, I don't know, by Friday, I'm thinking. No, it took time. Same thing with pearls. Same thing with pearls. Maybe you know how much I love pearls. Those of you who watch the show, I love pearls. I love pearls from what they are. Pearls are organic, or gemstones from an organic, a living being, a living thing. Pearls, let me remind you, those of you who ever watched my pearl show, pearls come from, it doesn't come from a grain of sand. how romantic it is. They make us think that, or people think that an oyster sitting there at the bottom of the ocean, and a grain of sand just happens to come into the oyster, and the oyster makes a pearl from that. No, that's not what happens. Natural pearls come from a bacterial infection, a parasite, a UTI, ladies. Not that men don't get them too, but a UTI. Think about the pain of that. So what the pearl did, and the UTI in the sex organs of the oysters. So think about that pain, and what nature, God has allowed the oyster to do is to cover it. Is to cover it in nacre. And because of the shape of the oyster, because of the shape of where it is, it becomes this beautiful spherical piece of heaven. And there's cultures that understood that. Mikimoto, when he made cultured pearls, he grew 20,000. And he had to open them up one by one to the point where he almost gave up on it. He did give up on it. And his wife was like, no, baby, we've been through too much of this. I am not going to let you. And she did all the rest. He did maybe, I don't know, a couple of thousand. She did all the rest. Literally, there was no machine. She took a knife and she said, look, honey, a pearl. Now, Mikimoto, his pearls, but you don't know the woman that made it possible, because he gave up. Time. It took time to produce that. It took time to understand that. Take a few minutes. We're going to take a break. Take a few minutes, and I'll see you when you come back to the other side.
Here's a gem bit. According to Marco Polo, Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan and the emperor of all of China, wanted a large ruby so badly that he was willing to trade an entire city for one. Man, I hope that wasn't for a birthday gift. I mean, what's he going to do next year? I'm just saying. Discover the value of your story.
All right, we're back. Time. Did you think about it? Did you think about all the time that it took, whatever age you are now, all the time it took to become who you are? Pearl, look at it. From the pain of something became something beautiful. And that's the reason why I immediately saw the connection between women and pearls, because there's no woman on the earth that has not experienced some kind of pain in her life just by the virtue of being a woman. And yet, that's not what you see. All of us know a woman or women in our lives, whether it be our mothers, our aunties, or somebody we work with, our children, our daughters, our wives. That's not what they manifest when you look at them. When you listen to a woman, if she really knows you and trusts you, she will tell you something that happened in her life, something that caused her pain. We live in times where women are going through all kinds of things, not especially in the United States, with their bodies, with the very thing that they are. And some will not, just like a pearl, many won't make it. Some won't make it, but hopefully there will be ones that do. There will be ones that made it. Through the pain, it will become stronger. It will still be. And when they greet you at the door or work, it's still good morning. Just like a pearl. All you see is the beauty. Inside, they know where it came from. They know where the pain, and they did something with it. Sometimes it inspired them. Sometimes it pushed them. Sometimes it motivated them. That was the pressure. I got to get out of this. The time to become the woman that they are today. The heat, pressure, and the time. You can't get a gemstone without those elements. You can't. There's no gemstone that does not require heat, pressure, and time. None. We're not even talking about days, unless it's, well, not even synthetics. It still takes time. You have to have all the things together. Here's amethyst. Here's amethyst. Amethyst used to be, amethyst is made, let me remind you what amethyst is. Amethyst is made out of sand, ladies and gentlemen, sand. It is a quartz. It is a quartz. That's what sand. Sand is silicon dioxide. That's what it is. When you look at an amethyst, that's what you're looking at. So think about all the sand on the world. Something that silicon oxide just happened to be in an environment, just happened to be an environment where there's iron. It took heat to make this. It took pressure to make this. In fact, not only did it take heat to make an amethyst, but in order to make citrine, you heat amethyst even more to become something else. That's why I named this show The Transformative Power of Heat, Pressure, and Time. This is amethyst. When you heat amethyst up by about 1,000 degrees, you heat it up and you get citrine. This is citrine, the product of more heat being applied. And while we're talking about this is citrine. And while we're talking about heat, still citrine. Madeira citrine. And all that came together because of iron. Iron, silicon dioxide with a hint of iron. You know that hard thing that we make buildings and everything with? That's what made those gemstones beautiful. Iron. Think about it for a second. How is something that's made out of something hard inside to create something beautiful? How can we use the experiences that we've had, the hard, terrible experiences, or the difficult or challenging experiences, like Marine Corps boot camp for me? That's why people who are Marines are Marines forever. It's not just the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. It's not just that. It's the experience. In fact, the last test we take is called a crucible, because that's what it takes. You become a United States Marine because of the heat, because of the pressure, because of the time. 13 weeks of hell. Oh my God. And I turned 18 in boot camp. Worst birthday I ever had in my life. And we're talking about emeralds. And then so here you have emeralds that have while we're talking about iron, sorry, not emeralds, because emeralds have chromium on it. And while we're talking about amethyst with iron in it, here's aquamarine. This beautiful, elegant, beautifully soft looking gems, just the color, look like you could jump into it. Look at it. Look at the clarity of that. And the only difference between this is the aquamarine, and this is an emerald. Emeralds always have things that it always have inclusions in it, because an emerald is made of the same structure, the same magnesium, beryllium, silicate, but with a aquamarine, with an emerald, you have chromium. Let me go back. This stone is an aquamarine. This stone is an emerald. They're in the exact same family. They're made of the exact same thing. And the only difference is that an emerald has chromium in it, whereas an aquamarine has iron. You can easily make that analogy. Two people, those of you have brothers and sisters, you know you're nothing like your brother. You nothing like your sister. And women experience that all the time. Women can be completely different. Living in the same house, same mom, same dad, same food, everything. Same bedroom for God knows how long, and be different. And depending on how they handle the heat, the pressure, the time in their lives will manifest who they are. An aquamarine. It doesn't have the same challenges that an emerald does. Heat, pressure, time. Heat, pressure, and time. That's what you went through to become. I don't even need to know you. This show is broadcast all over the world. Whoever's watching it, whatever you do, required heat. Take a second to think about it. Pressure. Take a moment to think about it. In time. Voila. And since some of you don't believe, I get your emails, the comments, and stuff. Some of you still don't believe. So let me take you. Let me just take you one more journey. Let me take you somewhere else. All right. Iron. Still dealing with iron. Sometimes we have gemstones, and make the analogy to people. Sometimes we have gemstones that have a molecular structure, and they have to put something in it. You have to put something in that molecular structure. You have to put something, here's the molecular structure. You have to put something in that molecular structure in order to become that color that you see. That's what happened with amethyst. That's what happened with emeralds. That's what happened with sapphires. But sometimes you have structures, you have gemstones that the thing that you put in it somewhere else, it is already part of the molecular structure of what it is. Peridot is a gemstone like that. It's idiochromatic. This is peridot. I'm gonna sit here for a second because I know some people that absolutely love this stone, didn't even know this stone exists. Here's peridot, one of Cleopatra's favorite gemstones. She loved peridot and emerald, but she loved peridot. And what makes peridot really special, even though it's considered a semi-precious stone, peridot is one of the only two gemstones that is not formed in the Earth's crust. Peridot is found almost at the same level, a little bit higher than a diamond. They lived in the same neighborhood. So that means you automatically understand that a peridot had to go through heat, pressure, and time. It's not in the crust of the earth. It's in the mantle of the earth. That's the next layer down. You remember your 8th grade, 9th grade science. Yeah. Peridot. And what makes peridot so incredible is it has the iron is built into the structure of it. Here's a diamond. Here's a diamond. These are diamonds. This is the diamond. It's the same process for every gemstone. A green diamond is green because it had to deal with not just pressure and temperature, but it had to go through it had to live somewhere where there's radioactive material. You know, like living in a rough neighborhood. That's how it became green. A blue diamond had to have boron in it in order to make it blue. It had to happen to be carbon living around just by chance. Elements of carbon. Of boron. Heat. when you talk about heat and you talk about a red diamond, now we already know that a regular diamond, your average run-of-the-mill diamond, has to go through tremendous heat, tremendous pressure, takes tremendous time. A red diamond is on a whole nother level. The heat and the pressure is so intense that it literally warps the structure of it. It warps the structure of that gemstone, of that diamond, to the point where it's nothing that's in it. It literally warped it to now the color is red. Think about yourself. Think about people you know that they took that experience and became something incredible. Those are the stories that we rewrite books about. Those are the stories of what was his name? Private Dawson, the one at Hamburger Hill. I forgot the name of the movie with the guy, the army private who was a conscientious objector, climbed up into a almost a 90-degree mountain hill and took on and saved 75 people. 75 people with no weapon. Heat, pressure, time. He became. It's almost hard for me to talk about him when I think about that movie and what he did. How was he any different than a red diamond? Nobody even believed in him because he didn't want to pick up a weapon, things like this. And he believed in his religion so profoundly that he was truly at the gates of hell and went back to do what he had to do. Because he had to go through things with his father and his mother, and that's the things that made him who he is. A pink diamond is same process. Here's peridot. This is peridot. Look at it. Look what it took. You're talking about the same level of a diamond, almost, just a little bit higher. It's kind of like being in a room when the room was 1,000 degrees. And how's your room, Charlie? Well, it's about 800. Oh, that's cold. Yeah, in comparison to 1,000. But out of that came something beautiful. Made out of the same, it's just the iron, magnesium, iron silicate. The iron is built in. It's built into who it is. Those of you who had grandmothers and moms and dads and uncles and fathers that instilled something inside of you where you almost had no other choice but to become a teacher, but to become a nurse or a lawyer or a bus driver or a truck driver. That's peridot. And the things that you had to do to get it, that's where the similarity lies. Peridot. So what I want you to get out of today is to understand, one, that there's no gemstone. There's no gemstone that did not have to go through process. There's no gemstone that did not have to experience heat, whether it's real or synthetic. There's no gemstone that did not require a certain amount of pressure, oftentimes tremendous pressure. And there's no gemstone that just becomes in a few days or few weeks. It took thousands, millions, billions of years to become. And what you have to do, your homework today, is to start to sit back and think to yourself, think about the work. Think about the process. Think about the work that you did to become who you are today. Just take time every day. You don't have to tell everybody. Just think about it yourself. As you're driving to work this morning, just think about to yourself, what did it take for you to live in the house you live in, or drive the car, or have money to send your kids to college, or to take care of your mom and your dad that's ill. And yet you do it because even though it's difficult. The work. The work. And when you appreciate the work, you'll begin to appreciate the transformative power. Your heat, your pressure, and the time that it took for you to get there, meaning your life. So I hope you enjoyed today. Again, happy birthday to all you born in May. We'll be talking more about emeralds and a whole lot of other gemstones in a few weeks. It's a long month. It's like 5 weeks this month. So I get 4 more times to be with all of you. So until next week, my name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a gemmological storyteller. And I hope that you take time to see the work that you've done in your life and begin the process of discovering the value of your own story.